Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. This is Crispy Immy, and I just reached level 100 on my Hardcore Druid, and I wanted to go over the build and playstyle I did to achieve that. This is the Pulverized Werebear. A lot of people are familiar with this. It's a pretty meta build, but I'm going to go over the way I played it specifically. I tried many different things and tried different aspects to see what works best, and I actually changed it a lot along the way. Now that I'm 100, I'm actually changing it even more, just a bit more, and I'll go over those as well. We're going to go over some gameplay as well as the aspects and some paragon options you have. But I want to start off with this build is very good for hardcore because how tanky it is. Currently at level 100, I'm almost 9,000 armor actively fighting, and that is 94% damage reduction. So it's really good for just tanking. Overall, you should have unstoppable almost all the time. So it's very safe when getting CC'd as well, which is one of the deadliest killers in Diablo 4. Many times during my leveling with this build, I was hitting much over 1 million, up to 2 million, 3 million sometimes, but average around 1 to 2 million, and that's because of the stacking crit damage on Grizzly Rage. So this build revolves around using Grizzly Rage and actually having it up as much as possible. A lot of the builds that I've seen, they say this as well, but I don't actually see myself having Grizzly Rage up always. Same with this build. It's never 100% up, but it's about the ability to get it back up very quickly once you're back in human form. In this case, out of Grizzly Rage. But with this current build, we're giving us the most amount of damage, the most amount of pulverized casts, and the best chance to get Grizzly Rage back up. So you're always in it. That's the priority for this specific build. There's actually some things I've done along the way which were slightly different, and we'll go over those as well. So we're going to go over the build first because some of this is pretty important and uniques are going to be required. I'll also show you guys the items that I was using on the side, sometimes trying different things out. So this is currently the build I'm using after level 100. As you can see here, my base attack power is over 9,000.
It's over 9,000!
It's over 9,000! My armor is 6,500 in human form, and in werebear form, a lot higher, 8,600 as you saw. And my life is 16,000. So I am very tanky. Side note, I did get one shot by Uber Lilith, so still not ready for that. But we need to use certain items. So let's start with the items here. We do have Vassal's Prayer. We do have a couple uniques in this build. So we have Vassal's Prayer. This one is actually very important for it to work because our basic attack is Earth Spike, and that is an Earth skill. When you're in Grizzly Rage, you're not able to use any other skills except for Werebear skills. You'll need Earth skills to become Werebear skills, and that's what Vassal's Prayer does. Your Earth skills are now Werebear skills, and they also fortify you for a little bit of damage. So you'll want to take this item. You also get damage while shapeshifted, overpower damage, max life, and some lightning resistance. But this build is very focused around overpower damage, so that is very helpful as well. I also like to take Insatiable Fury. This also gives you full Werebear form. You're always in Werebear. You'll get 2 ranks to all Werebear skills, which also means you're getting 2 ranks to all Earth skills. I like that it stacks on each other and gives you more damage that way. At the same time, you're also adding more overpower damage, damage reduction while fortified, and you are literally fortified for full HP constantly with this build. And look at that 14% up to 21% total armor while in Werebear form. That's a huge stat priority. Armor in this game is busted. You want to stack as much armor as you can. It's very good for tanking and defense, even for non-melee attacks. Then my current gloves here, we have all stats, we have attack speed, we have ranks to pulverize, and crit strike chance. So we're taking pulverize as an Earth skill. So this will make our Werebear skill an Earth skill, which is the reverse of Vassal's Prayer essentially, but it will give us the stacking of damage and other effects that we are applying to our Earth skills. This is our current stat priority. We get taking attack speed and crit chance. This is my other option here. I used to take more lucky hit chance. Lucky hit chance would also work well adding to this build. I would swap it out for all stats possibly, but all stats is also a very good skill because that helps your paragon points, because as you can see here in this rare node, I'm not hitting this 10% bonus damage while in Werebear form because I don't have 540 intelligence. You need to increase your other stats to get a lot more damage. 10% flat damage in Werebear form, that's actually quite substantial. So I used this before because Lucky Hit Chance is helping us proc our Earthen Might. That is a very, very key skill that we're using for this build because we need to get our spirit back up as much as possible. Spirit regen is generally really hard in this build. That's why I've done a few certain things to help keep that up, keep that spirit high, and then once you hit crits while in your ultimate, you'll be stacking crit damage and do a ton of damage. So obviously we want max life. Currently on this build, I have damage for 4 seconds after killing elite. This is very good for XP farming, which is obviously what I've done for hardcore rushing level 100. So that's also really good for DPS. However, you can go with something else more tanky, such as damage reduction while fortified. That's a very good skill. Or even something like damage reduction while injured. If you ever go below 35% health, which is an injured state, then you'll take a lot less damage and it'll give you the chance to kind of come back. Our main stat is good. Willpower is there. And we have total armor while in werebear form. Very good. And then we have the Earthen Bulwark aspect there to increase it to 6 seconds. So if you're not taking damage to drop your armor, you'll also be able to replenish it. Then you will keep up unstoppable for 9 seconds with the skill. So that's very good, and I just used to pop it all the time. Then on our boots, we're taking spirit cost reduction, movement speed, all stats, and shrine buff duration. These are definitely not endgame boots. They're only level 736 item power, so there is definitely room to grow. Movement speed is always nice to have, so I like to stack movement speed wherever I can. And then for the aspect, we're taking damage from earth skills, slow enemies hit by 45%. So I used to have Ghostwalker aspect, which is very OP as well. So while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after you gain movement speed and can freely walk through enemies, that one is very good as well. That is definitely another option. However, you do need to have some form of slow from your earth skills. So now this also applies to our pulverize, which is obviously now an earth skill. So things we want to prioritize is either vulnerable damage, overpower damage, spirit cost reduction, movement speed, and your main stats or all stats. Crit damage is good, but since we're stacking it with our ultimate, we don't need to focus on that. So we focus damage while vulnerable and overpower. However, overpower is an aspect of this build that it stacks a lot. You get it multiple times guaranteed, but if you want to work around that, you can actually benefit maybe a little bit more by stacking other things. An idea I had recently is to actually remove one of our guaranteed overpowers because I think it would be more efficient in the long run and for tanking and hardcore especially. So this aspect you can move to another item, and then you would obviously take the Ghostwalkers and put them on the boots if you're getting trouble and getting stuck in places. Then on our weapon, we're taking Pulverize, creates a shockwave that travels forward, dealing 200% damage, so double damage, and the shockwave is insane. We're focusing heavily on distant damage as well. So now, as you can see here, we have our slow, which is applying a card control effect. We have 50% core skill damage, which is huge. We have willpower, which is huge for damage. We have more overpower damage with werebear skills, which we're always going to be in, and damage to stunned enemies, which occurs occasionally with our trample. So that would be better as a vulnerable damage modifier. Then on our amulet, we are taking duration of Grizzly Rage is increased by 8 seconds. We want the max roll on this, which is 5, and then in the amulet slot it is 8. And that will help us keep our Grizzly Rage up longer. The longer we have it up, the more damage we get to do by stacking critical hits. As each critical hit now increases your crit strike damage by 10% for that duration. We also have some other buffs for, for Druid. Crushing Earth passive gives us 15% damage, which is pretty good. Then we have 12% base. We have movement speed. So overall, it's a really high DPS amulet, but other things such as cooldown reduction and damage reduction would be very good as well in this amulet. Then for the rings, we're taking some crit strike damage with Earth Skills. That's just because it's too expensive to re-roll this more. We don't really need to stack crit strike damage, as I mentioned. Damage over time is also not that required. Max life is very good, so we'll take max life and we'll take extra physical damage, which is going to be done with our Pulverize. Now, this is one aspect that most people don't take on this build, is increase our maximum spirit by 50. And our spirit regeneration while Grizzly Rage is active. So now when popping Grizzly Rage, I'll go from 106 to 156 spirit, which means I can cast Pulverize at least 4 times in a row without hitting anyone. But now we're taking the aspect of the Umbral. And as you can see here, this is a 2 out of 4 roll. It's garbage. This is literally the best roll I've gotten in my whole time of going for level 100. So it might be tough to get this roll, but once you do get it, it'll be very efficient. So even with 2, the gameplay that you're seeing is still pretty efficient. I have my Pulverize up quite often, and I have my Grizzly Rage up very often as well. Damage to card control enemies is always a good roll. Damage to vulnerable would be great. Damage to slowed, any fortify would be great, and damage reduction would be great. Crit strike damage is nice to have, but it's not required. And the Umbral is actually very key for this build because it helps you when Grizzly Rage is down or your Earthermite does not proc, which may happen as well. But Earthermite procs more with crit strike chance as well as lucky hit chance. So if you can increase those as well, that will really round this build up. So some of the things I also had on this build, I recently removed the Earth Skills deal 60% more crit strike damage to crowd control enemies. This one is obviously a free 60% damage, but once again, if we're focusing on having Grizzly Rage up all the time, then this becomes less valuable. So at these gloves, we were looking at attack speed and Pulverize. This one was helping us get our resource back with our basic attack, as well as possibly proccing Earthermite more with our crits, and high attack speed will help with that. And then for our ring, we actually were taking Trample at one point before using Umbral. This was to give us a ton more landslides. Trample would now be an Earth skill. So if you wanted to use this ring, you can definitely use it. I actually added some damage to landslide. I would have a 5 out of 5 here. And trample would also go up in damage because it is now an earth skill as well. I was also using this with +2 ranks to earth skills with when fortified, that aspect, and that was working really well, giving me a lot more functionality, a lot more damage from my trample. I was dropping a ton of landslides that actually melted the enemies. That gives me a ton more hits. That gives me the chance to get my Earthen Might back. And that is the main reason that I used it. But I found that, that still relies a lot on luck. It did a lot of great damage and it was really great for this build. But having the Umbral is slightly better for that Grizzly Rage focus and stacking the pulverized damage with the crit damage. So this is kind of where I am currently in terms of my aspects and my builds. But as you can see here, this is pretty much end game. I can tank quite a lot with this build, so it's very useful. Let's go quickly over the skill tree. We are going to take Earth Spike because we want our Earth skills to proc Earthen Might. So as our basic attack, while in Werebear, we can still use this now with Vassal's Prayer. We're going to take 10% chance to stun, which actually procs sometimes, and it's quite useful, and to fortify our base life. Then we're actually going to take 2 points in Heart of the Wild. This will give us the ability to run 3 pulverizes while not in ultimate form, which may happen on some occasion, so it's very helpful there. Max out pulverize, of course. I have beautiful 12 points right here. This thing hurts. Your next pulverize will overpower, and enemies hit will pulverize will deal 20% reduced damage. So helps you be a lot tankier. Then we're gonna just take 1 point predatory. We're not always close to it, and 9% damage reduction while in Werebear to help us tank. Then we're gonna take 1 point in Earthen Bulwark. At one point, I had 6 to 7 points in this, with like the aspects such as +2 ranks to Earth with Fortify, as well as and some extra defensive skills as well. And we're gonna take the base life as Fortify. Then we're taking Debilitating Roar, Enhanced Debilitating, and Preserving to heal as well. This is pretty much our main healing skill. We're taking Nature's Reach for increased distance to damaged enemies. We're going to take Crushing Earth. This deals 15% increased damage. I have 3 extra stats, so 30%. We're going to take Safeguard, and we're going to take Stone Guard. So Fortify is very key and helps us do more damage. Then we take Trample. Only 1 point in there, 3 points from items, which is really great. Enhanced Trample and Natural Trample for more Fortify. We're going to take Mending, and we're going to max out Provocation. This is just to give us another guarantee overpower after 20 seconds of Werebear form, which is always going to be Werebear form. Then we're also going to take the 3 points in Defiance, Natural Disaster, and Resonance for extra Nature Magic damage. Then we're going to take Grizzly Rage, of course, max that out, and then we take Earthen Might. So furthermore, there is a ton of opportunity on the Paragon boards. I actually just respec this. I went from 34 mil to 26 mil doing that. So as you can see here, we're taking as much damage in Werebear form as we can. We really focus on stacking armor and willpower because armor is amazing, to survive. And this is a hardcore account, so I focused on that. You can drop a little bit armor if you want, if you're not hardcore, of course. For glyphs, we're taking overpower glyphs. We're taking Undaunted for more damage reduction when fortified. We made sure that is triggered. And we are obviously taking Exploit, as everyone is. In our last one, we can take Earth and Sky to improve, magic nodes nearby, and that will be increasing crit strike damage. Or you can take something like Territorial to get damage reduction. However, as you can see here, I have not maxed this one out yet, so I haven't really perfected the Paragon board. There's definitely different options you have. As you can see here, the way I did it was try to connect a few so that I have the opportunity to change them out and not spend too much money. We didn't even take Earthen Devastation this time. I used to have this on. So when I first started the Paragon, I actually started with the Werebear Paragon board, which is this one. I had Survival Instinct. This one is really good. Damage reduction while fortified is very good. This one will actually give you 12% damage reduction. That's very, very good. So if I have the chance to go back in this, I would probably take that and want to take that 25% damage to healthy enemies. So when you come up, hit them the first time or while they're still high health, then you'll hit a lot harder. And that's kind of the way this build is focused. I got 10% damage in Werebear form. If I can get that extra 10%, that'll be huge. This one is also really pretty good for things like bosses and high health monsters. It's not needed as often because we're really just smashing, and a lot of the times you might take more than half of their health with one hit. Might not need it, but you can consider that as well. And then we're taking total armor in Werebear form whenever we can, and Werebear skill damage and overpower damage, because this build focuses a lot on overpower. We have our nature magic damage, damage to elites. We're doing earth skills, so that all counts as that. We have crowd control constantly because all of our hits are slowing, and we also are taking more nature magic and willpower. We're also stacking max life wherever we can. You can also look at some spirit nodes as well to gain around 8 to 16 spirit just to help. So we have crit strike damage, we have physical damage, we have more armor, we have attack speed, and we just have other bonus to damages as well. I really took as much armor as I can. I didn't take any resists because right now it doesn't seem that they're that effective. But this build has been very effective for me. It's been very strong. It was very good to get to 100, especially if you want to farm dungeons. This is honestly one of the best ways, and if you're just killing a bunch of mobs. So as you can see here, this is kind of our stat priority and how it currently is. We have damage to stunned, damage to slowed, vulnerable damage, not too much. That one we can actually go up. Damage to crowd control, which is everyone. More crit strike chance as much as possible, so I'm slowly adding to that. Crit strike damage is pretty low as well. Our overpower damage is huge. Then we have damage while fortified, damage while shapeshifted, and then we have extra damage while in werebear, physical damage, which pulverize is physical, as well as our core, earth, werebear, and elite. So that's all damage that we are going to be applying always. Obviously max our life, extra werebear armor, that's a ton. Werebear armor is more effective than flat total armor because the werebear amounts are higher, and we're always in werebear form, so it always works. Then we have just base damage reductions as well. Damage reduction is very good in Diablo, and then almost 150% movement speed, which is great for a werebear build. The werewolf skills are typically a lot quicker skills. So as you can see, this build is pretty much run around and smack. And as you can see here, the spirit is constantly coming back. That is with the Umbral, that is with my Earthen Might, and when the Earthen Might procs, I'm hitting crits only, and when my ultimate is up, I'm just stacking those constant crits. So the gameplay, as you can see here, we are actually aiming for distant damage. See how we position ourselves to be behind them, so we can shoot a shockwave and destroy everyone in the way. We also try to stand a certain distance away that isn't right beside them, because first of all, we get extra damage from distant enemies. At the same time, there is a very key spot for Pulverize to actually hit twice. That would be with the base Pulverize skill plus the Shockwave itself. So if you stand a certain distance away, which you'll see in my general footage, practice standing away, and that's why you'll see me kite a lot. If you're at that distance, then you're going to be applying the damage from Pulverize twice, which will be easily over 1 mil per hit. You also see that in the very first clip I shared, as well as many others. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. If you guys like the build or like any of my videos, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. That'll really help me continue to make more videos. I do plan to make a lot more videos on druids and other classes, as well as other types of builds. Definitely am done with playing Pulverize for quite a while, so I am going to switch it up for sure. But thank you for watching, guys. I will see you guys on the next. I even took this build to a world boss, but typically you're going to get carried at the world boss. This doesn't do a lot of single target damage for these bosses. But it's fine for any dungeon boss.